Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to this session. This is the second session today, which is about regional dynamics and inter GCC relations as part of the third international conference of the this conference held by Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies. Many people ask, what are our options? What are our positions? What are we in this region of Arab that is full of problems and trouble? What will the world lose if all the Arab and Islamic countries would disappear suddenly? Is it really difficult to say nothing, or just to say this is part of the norms of life in a world that can no longer answer the urgent questions at the time that there are religious extremism, the economic collapse that is leading some people to schizophrenia and some of them to despair and others to extremism and terrorism. Is there any rational explanation of what's happening up in the Arab world? Democracy and freedom are changing into tyranny, and people are either between two difficulties in life, and the deviation of the revolution, the return of tyranny, the emergence of Daesh, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, and the list is long. The main question is, are we still to see worse than this, and will the future bring more surprises to the Arab world? I am not optimistic by nature, but I'm not pessimistic by nature, but I'm also not optimistic about the future of the Arab region. This session cannot claim that it will answer all questions, but it will discuss the challenges met by the GCC countries in the regional context, and will speak about the following topics: the forgotten Arabs in the Gulf, the Turkish-Arab relations, the Qatar case, and the Twitter's impact on political dialogue. We'll begin with the first paper, which will be presented by Dr. Maryam Rashid Al-Khater, which will be about the Twitter's impact on political dialogue in the Arab Gulf states. Dr. Maryam is Deputy Director General of the Doha Center for Freedom of Media. She is a well-known writer in the media and member of the Committee of Alliances of Civilizations, and is member of the Board of Directors of Al Jazeera Channel and Al Jazeera Children. She is also specialized in media international relations and has an editorial article and has obtained her PhD, her master's degree from Washington, D.C., and is now preparing her doctorate in Britain. I give her the floor. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to the Arab Center for giving us this opportunity, and I'd like to thank the chairperson, Dr. Khalid. The title of this conference is about GCC countries, politics and economics in the light of regional international shifts and changes, and within the political economic context. So we are going to speak about the Twitter impact on political dialogue in the Arab Gulf states, because Twitter and its other similar channels represent the big changes in democratizations of the nations and in finding free tribunes for free speech and free expression. Twitter, if we want to if you want to define it, we can say it's a bird, or we can say it's 140 characters or figures. It is a challenge that has imposed itself on conventional media and on the culture of politics in the society. If the conventional media is the son of governments, the social media, including Twitter, is the, uh, the troublemaking son of the media. We all know that Twitter is a result of technological leap that has led to a lot of improvements in the use and the spread of the usage of social media in the Arab world. This changes in technology were also accompanied by political changes that affected the usage of Twitter. The Arab Gulf peoples have been affected by Twitter and in such a way that there is a big expansion in using Twitter in the GCC countries because Twitter has changed the media landscape from the conventional one, from polarization to multipolarism, and making media a tool in the hands of the peoples, not the hands of the governments. So that's why we see that has led to unprecedented revolution, popular revolution called the virtual streets revolution, which has affected the politics of the countries. My research will speak about the usage of the Twitter and its effects on the political changes and the effects of Twitter on the Arab practicing and freedoms and the effect of that on the media, and then how we focus on the Arab GCC countries and the phenomena that have encouraged the appearance of these characteristics of Twitter, and you also see the perspectives, whether positive or the negative results or achievements made by Twitter. We will be speaking about the effects of Twitter on the inter-GCC relations and the reactions of the governments on this. The research was based on a hypothesis that the social communication media channels have affected a lot the political landscape especially in the GCC countries, because this kind of media, the new media, has challenged the conventional media, especially with the youth people who represent 70% of the population of the Arab world, and they are the dynamics of the social media and leading it. So the media challenge also was represented by the social media and led to some mobilization campaigns and has represented a sort of coup from pluralism to multipolarism. And this represents a political transformation because politics and media are one and the same, and they are intermingled, and Twitter has led to changes in the society on political level and social level, and this was all as a result of the Arab Spring 2011, and has also had its effect on the governments, on the official levels and the diplomatic relations between the GCC countries. To well understand the effects of Twitter, we see this statistics on the screen, which shows you the usage of Twitter and of internet in the Arab world and the GCC countries. But here we are only focused on Twitter. Twitter has been used in Arab by 6 million persons, and this is by the latest statistics made by the Dubai College for Government Administration, and says that Twitter is one of the most largely used blogging tribune. As using of the Twitter in the Arab Gulf, we find that the Gulf countries are on the head of the usage of those the activists. The Saudi Arabia is the largest one, 2.5 million people are using in them, and and the activists are even more than. Then Kuwait and then Egypt. While keep in mind that the population of Egypt is very much larger than the other countries, and Saudi Arabia is also at the top, is even more has more usage than even countries like Indonesia, and this and so we can see that Saudi Arabia is the usage of Twitter is more than any country in the world, and in fact the usage of Twitter in all the Arab countries compared to the GCC countries, we find that GCC countries exceed them all, and even the broadband has encouraged that, and cell phones, of course, everybody in the Gulf area has one handset or at least two handsets. Did Twitter affect or has effects on the social movement in the GCC countries, the political movement also? This is based on the hypothesis of our research, because I studied the previous historical events and can say that yes, the activists of the Gulf have used Twitter as a means and a tool for social and political changes, and as a means of popular mobilization to call people for protests in the streets, not only in Bahrain, in which the hashtag with Bahrain in 2011 was the highest and biggest, but also in the other Gulf states, the calls for Twitter in specific days to go to the streets, but that was not achieved. There's also the Twitter, for every action there's a reaction. So if you want to know what is the effect of the Twitter on the governments, we see that the governments dealt with Twitter in a way trying to control Twitter and affect its users because of the political turbulence they led to, because the governments of the GCC countries were afraid that this might lead to instability. And then there was arrest of some of the bloggers and activists, and they are the first people to be arrested. According to the Arab Monitor for Research and Research, 30 to 40% of the prisoners in the Gulf prisons are because they criticized the ruling regime. In Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, there were some demands and movements, political movements calling for rights of the minorities or specific groups in society. Also in Qatar, there were some demands calling for reforms or against corruption on Twitter. And in Oman, there were also some calls in Twitter for some. There was some criticism of some social phenomena and also criticism to the monarch, but then they were released. In Kuwait, a number of activists were also arrested for the same reason, because they attacked the ruler. Also in the Emirates, there is a complaint that there's a low percentage of usage of Twitter by the people, because the people are afraid to be accused of being member of Islamic movements. Human Rights Watch has condemned Bahrain, Kuwait, and the Emirates and Saudi Arabia because the arrests they made. The conclusion is that these arrests have led to the migration of the people to Twitter using false names or symbolic names, or even images and names of foreigners to cover up for their identity and that of course makes Twitter stronger. And there were many accounts with the unknown names that were linked to some people who are part of the ruling family, and they wanted to criticize their family, such as مجتهد سعودية and مجتهد إمارات, مجتهد Kuwait, مجتهد Qatar as names. On the other direction, the social media channels have become the virtual arenas for revolutions. But if you want to go to the applications, the practical aspects of this research, how does that affect the Gulf movement? To answer this, I call you to analyze this graphic, which includes the names of the countries that are on the top of the list of the hashtags used in the Arab world. What do you notice in this? The Saudi Arabia is the highest on the right, with two names in Arabic and English, and then Bahrain, Qatar, Emirates, and Kuwait, and Egypt, which has the highest number of hashtags in this analysis. Syria had a setback despite its bloody events. The question is why? The crisis of withdrawal of ambassadors, Saudis and Emirates and Bahrain's ambassadors were withdrawn from Qatar in March 2014, and this best indicator of the usage of Twitter and also the mention of this also was Egypt was also mentioned in this analysis and this means that this issue is the most important and the biggest in the GCC countries, and that almost undermine the idea of unity of these countries. And this implies something that the politics has gone into the social and popular movements and affecting the relations between the countries, and Twitter has changed from a communication tool into a hot battle or conflict arenas. And here we go back to the theories of the media that Twitter has changed from being a tool to become a system. Or Harold Laswell, who was known for the theory of who, what, to whom, when, to what effect, until we get the feedback. Marshall McLuhan spoke of the means, which is the message. This theory is too old now. We will not wait for the effects. Marshall McLuhan is specialized in English literature, but he was interested in media and felt that TV was controlling the mentality and lives of people. I need 5 minutes. And I'm sure that he had lived today, he would have said that Twitter and his sisters, the separate man from his wife. And then there is the theory of network theory of power and the strength of weak ties. These are one of the theories that explain the social changes, that because it deals with changes as a block and not as individuals. There was a lot of activities in Twitter and about the crisis of withdrawal of the ambassadors, and this even Egypt was mentioned because all Egypt was used to be referred to during these discussions, and Iran also because it has occupied the 3 isles of the Emirates. And the ideas presented in Twitter were very audacious and used a sarcastic language that even made fun of the presidents, and it's not accepted in media because it will push the media from the freedom of expression to attacking people and using foul language, which is against Human Rights Declaration and the Article 19 about freedom of expression. Twitter also had people who are pro and who are against, and we think that there was a dialogue between those who are pro and those who are against. Also, the idea, the objective, critical ideas were also reinforced in a good way, and that was also through Twitter because it became the source of news and the source of the guests. The pyramid is that the first issue was something between the GCC countries. Twitter responded to that. But now we have something that happened in the Twitter, and the government, the authorities in the GCC countries responded to them. Now we have a statement by the member of parliament in Kuwait who spoke about the Houthis in Yemen and wrote a Twitter that led to anger and rage within the Kuwaiti people and the Bahraini people. This tweet says that we congratulate the Bahraini people for their victories, and tomorrow is not like yesterday. The Bahrain issue is in the oven now and will come out well cooked, just like a good piece of bread. This Twitter that was analyzed in the media that it is incitation to violence, inciting. And this led to a reaction from the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Bahrain and said this is bullshit, in fact, and so there were demands from the people, of the Kuwaiti people, calling for holding this person accountable. So the conclusion, Twitter opens the doors for political dialogue and also become a tool to send political messages and to comment on local issues. Finally, I would like to confirm that Twitter enforces the political dialogue and popular dialogue within one country between the GCC countries, and Twitter has enforced intellectual discussions and also has encouraged having different false or accounts for the same person, and Twitter also might encourage false news and lies, and also has encouraged the intelligence attacks from one country to another country. In conclusion, the recommendation says that Twitter represents in the GCC countries a very important means for measuring the public opinion, and that we should not neglect, because even troublemaking should be taken into consideration and should well live it. And Twitter is also a future tool to know what will be the future trends in the future or the social political levels in the GCC countries. The social media is a means and a goal that might be a double-edged arm and that might bring points together or might incite to violence or differences between the people of one country or even one tribe. Thank you very much.
So as not to be accused of being dictators, as men, we granted you more time. The issue of Arabistan, as called the province of Ahwaz, has been pending for more than 90 years, and it's not being spoken about or embraced by any of the media. The following paper will address the issue of Ahwaz or Arabistan by Dr. Muhammad Al-Misfer, who is professor of political studies in the University of Qatar. He had a number of research and studies in the Arab domain. He is also contributing to the Arab and Qatari newspaper. And from New York, where he got his degree to Arabistan, he will proceed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I will narrate now, I will give account of historical facts as a reminder, and at the end of the paper it will be my own view on how to address this issue. Within this context, the Arab world is being dismembered and divided. From Arabistan to the east, Alexandrona to the north, Sabta and Malila to the west, Somalia to the west. This is how the Arab world is being dismembered, divided from the heart, Iraq, Syria, into the Arabian Peninsula, as historians say. The forgotten Arabs. The date of this province, and I will read to spare time. The history of this province dates back to ancient times where many Arab tribes resided. Al-Am tribe, Ka'b tribe, Bani Namr, at the dawn of Islam, as historians confirm. They were the Arab tribes that have been residing in Ahwaz province or Arabistan till day. Taraf tribe, Sala, Lam, Malik, Khalid, Jamiz, Zubayd, Rabi'a. To the north, to the south, Ka'b tribes and Tamim tribes. The name Ahwaz or Arabistan is attributed to the place where the Arab resided. It was divided into sections or sectors or provinces. Agricultural one where each tribe had its own share or position. In Arabic, Hawza, and in plural, Ahwaz means sections or provinces. The Arabs make up the majority till date, despite the forcible displacement into Iran. None of the Arab nomads have mentioned that this is affiliated to Persia, including Pedro Tasker and the German Kirsten Nebor. All these navigators say that the coast that stretches from Hormuz to Elam is Arabistan or Al-Ahwaz, the true Arabistan area. The province occupies a significant, geographically significant location to the east of the Arabian Gulf. It extends north till Rosnan Mountains, to the east, Kurdistan mountainous chain, separating the Iranian ridge and extending to the west till the east of Iraq. I hope that the map could be presented on the screen. The area of the province is about 39,000 square miles. The makeup of the population about 4.5 million people. The most important cities: Abadan, Khafaja, Dizful, Sulaiman Mosque, Bahbahan, Huwaiza, Muhammara, and Bushahar. Abadan is named after Abbad ibn Hussein, who lived in the Umayyad Caliphate era. It is also described as being one of the most religious. That's why it's called Abadan, out of worship. In the 14th century, the first political agenda was crystallized, where a unified Arab country was triggered under the leadership of Al-Mushashai between 1401 to 1469. He's an Arab from Iraq, from Wasit, and he enjoyed the support of the Arab tribes, including Al-Ma'adi, Arznan, Sudan, and Tai. The Ahwaz, the united or unified country, has suffered great challenges. However, the spirit of resistance and fortitude between Abada, Layth, Asad, Hutayt, and Banu Sa'd tribe has managed them to stand up to all the attempts to undermine the Ahwaz or Arabistan. In the 15th century, Shiraz, Abadan, Dawraq, and the eastern coast of the Arab coast until Bandar Abbas joined the province, extending to the north to include Chester, Bakhtariya, Loristan, Yibat, Karmanshah, Sayra, Bahbahan, and other areas. The second phase of a uniform Ahwazi Arabistan entity, the Ka'bi tribe, or the Ka'bi Emirate, was the most robust superpower at that time due to its political and military roles. in the 18th century that stood up to the Nadir Shah attempts to occupy the area. And under Bani Ka'b, under the rulership of Salman bin Sultan, managed to extend the borders of the Emirate of Bani Ka'b, the Ottomans and the Persians. The emergence of an Arab state, a strong one in this area, has given reservation among the Ottoman and Persian states. That's why they exercised political pressures, including to demand ruler Salman to pay a ransom in order to succumb the province to their political pressures. Salman refused and resisted. The Persian was not pleased to see an Arab state, strong one, arising, and that's why Ka'b tribe were subjected to a Persian invasion under Karim Khan rule. However, the Ka'bi tribes stood up and defeated the Persians. That's why Karim Khan pulled back from the Ahwaz. The Safavid state at the beginning of the 16th century, 1501, radical changes, including the Safavid state that dominated all the Iranian populace, Arab, Azeriyun, Kurd, Iranians, Baluchistan, Persians, and continued till 1736. The Ottomans defeated the Mamluki Caliphate and dominated most of the Arab world, usurping Baghdad from the shackles of the Persian. This had implications on the Arabistan political status. That's why the Safavid worked towards undermining the state and exterminate it completely. The year 1508 is the beginning of the Safavid era, and the first step by Shah Abbas is to occupy the Arabistan. He was met by fierce and robust resistance, whereby he backed down on his military plan and pretended to be friendly. Then he betrayed them and Arabistan was occupied. The British role. Sheikh Khazal feared Ottomans, and he promised the English to harness all his potentials against a reciprocal promise to provide protection, and where if the Persian assault the competences of the ruler of Ahwaz, Britain should intervene to provide protection and maintain sovereignty. People rose against Mubarak bin Sabah also feared Kuwait at that time and recruited certain Kuwaitis to support his friend Sheikh Khazal in Arabistan on the other bank of the Gulf. However, at that point, the Kuwaitis, that they cannot fight by the side of their fellow brothers in Arabistan, and that's why the Kuwaitis backed down. Britain called for what's called today the GCC. In January 1915, Lord Hartken called the Arab rulers in the Gulf in a conference to be held in Kuwait. Abdulaziz bin Saud, the Prince of Ahsa, Sheikh Khazal, the Prince of Arabistan, Sheikh Isa bin Khalifa, of ruler of Bahrain, Timur bin Fasil, Prince of Muscat, and also Prince of Kuwait, Mubarak bin Sabah. Then he demanded that those rulers should convene to support Al-Ashraf in their struggle against the Ottomans, and also to provide protection. And history is repeated. Gulf rulers are convened at the behest of foreign powers to resist other sides. The meeting was not held. King Abdulaziz was busy unifying his kingdom in the face of bin Rashid. The ruler of Muscat, Sheikh Tamim, he was not able to leave the country. Arabistan also at that time and only Sheikh, the ruler of Bahrain, was present. The British conspiracy. In 1914, Britain officially recognized the independence of Arabistan or Al-Ahwaz, and Mr. Cox provided the document of recognition to Sheikh Khazal, reiterating that Britain will provide protection to the Arabistan and provide military support following the World War I. Britain backed down on Sheikh Khazal and broke all the promises of protection and independence, and sided with Rida Khan, the then Iranian defense minister, who later became the crowned Shah. Britain also feared. That's why they backed down on their promise and agreement with Sheikh Khazal, disconnecting all the communications with the Arab tribes to the south of Iraq and also within the Arabistan. And the political attaché handed down a decision withdrawing all the promises given to Khazal if he wishes to struggle the Iranian. And at that time, Bani Ka'b or Arabistan was occupied in 1925. The Iranian policy is to prevent the use of Arab names, limit the learning or teaching the Arabic language, difficulty of joining the universities, difficulty of wearing the Arab uniform or traditions, forcible displaced, the Arab role. The Arabs were not able to communicate without the Supreme Commission. Syria was busy in their national revolution. Iraq was under occupation. Ben Saud was busy with his domestic affair. Egypt also was under the British mandate. There was no Arab role. The role of the Arabistan was effective in 1928 uprising, in 40, 41, 43, 44, 45, and 1956. The Liberation Front was formed. I request the chairman to give me only 2 minutes. In 1964, the issue of Arabistan was listed on the Arab League agenda. However, this item was including that it will be included in the curriculum and textbook of all the member states. However, this action was not put into existence. Iraq, Iran, and the United States, we are aware that they are not able or willing to see a strong, robust country in the Arabistan province. That's why Britain broke its promises and sided with Shah Rida Khan. Arabistan was occupied. The same applied to Iraq. They backed Iraq and even backed Iran against Iraq. Even Israel did. They also later sided with the United States and Britain, and now Iraq is occupied by the British-American occupation. That's why the Arab cooperated to drop Iraq and overthrow Iraq, like what happened in Arabistan. The conclusion, what is the exit? All the Arab media and Gulf media, officials and politicians complain of the Iranian intervention, and despite the fact that they can undermine and the Iranian national security like what they are doing in other Arab countries, I suggest we bring together the liberation fronts of the Arabistan province, support the Arab media, opening the universities and educational institutions to the Arabistan residents, bringing back the cause of the Arabistan into all the textbook and curriculum of the Arab school, and also with respect to the Emirati disputed islands, it should be resurfaced on the international arenas, and also urge the UN and the United States and even Security Council reaching up to the International Court of Justice to exercise pressure and exercise economic pressures on Iran. A decisive action should be taken against the Al-Dawa party in Iraq. The Gulf Cooperation Council should reinvigorate its role by supporting the persecuted tribes of Sunni and Shia tribes who are persecuted by sectarian militias and people's protection units that's run and financed by Republican guards of Iran under Soleiman. The Gulf countries also support the non-normalization of relations with al-Dawa parties unless all the political of conscience are released, constitution set up, democratic order set up in pluralism that is not subjected to the Iranian influence. Thank you very much. And
no, thank you very much, Mark. You respected the time limit. From Arabistan, we must also speak about Iran, which is the well-skilled chess player that has long Ellen and don't know how to play on time. And this is what we see when we follow up the Iranian program, nuclear program. And this reminds me of an anecdote that when Juha challenged the king that he can teach the donkey how to speak, because when he was asked, what will you do through 30 years, he said the 30 times either the king will die, or I will die, or the donkey will die. So now the symbol of donkey is now of the democracy of USA, and they are ruling. Anyhow, the third paper is about the effect of Oman-Iranian relations on GCC interaction, presented by Dr. Ahmed Al-Masami, who is advisor of the Minister of Religious Affairs. He's a researcher of religious affairs and social business. He has studied constitutional law from the Ministry of Cairo and obtained his master's degree from Tunisia and then his PhD from the Sorbonne in France. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, in the beginning, I would like to extend my thanks to the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies for the big effort it is making for the success of this work, of this conference. I'd also like to extend my thanks to the state of Qatar, this state that has always and for more than 10 years been calling and helping and supporting research centers, and so it deserves all our thanks and appreciation. The Iranian-Omani relations and their effects on the GCC integration is what I will be speaking about in the coming few minutes. And as it is clear from the title, it has two main axes or aspects. The first, the Iranian-Omani relations, and the most important problem posed here in these few minutes and in this paper is to ask why has Oman come closer to Iran? Why this rapprochement between Oman and Iran, especially in the past 5 years, beginning from the visit of Sultan Qaboos to Iran in 2009 and up to the negotiations of the Iranian program with the T+1 group. What the other aspect that I was speaking of is the effects of this rapprochement between Oman and Iran on the GCC countries' integration. How does the GCC Council looks upon this rapprochement between Oman and Iran, and what are the negative effects of such a rapprochement on the relations between the GCC countries themselves? The Omani-Iranian relations go back to before the Islam era, because we are geographically close to each other and because we have common and joint history. And the relationship between the Persians and the Omanis sometimes were quiet and sometimes were conflictual. That's to say, it was a tense relationship in general until the beginning of the 18th century. The conflict between Oman and the Persians was mostly a political conflict on strategic influence areas inside the Arab Gulf. In the 18th century, especially after the mergers of the Saudi state, the second one, as a political and constitutional entity and strong one in the Gulf, this conflict changed in the region, and religion became an important factor, or the main factor in the political conflict. Hence, the political conflict has changed by its players and by the nature of the conflict itself. In 1970, and after the arrival of Sultan Qaboos and the new political regime in Oman, this regime has made a lot of changes, transformation Oman on the internal and external levels. First of all, the influence of Oman was very much set back in East Africa, an influence that had for 5 centuries. And also the influence in Balochistan retracted and to arrive only Pakistan. Then the emergence of the Arab Emirates state as a new political constitutional state or entity. It has always been there, of course, but this I'm speaking on as a constitutional entity. And there were some internal conflicts in Oman at the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, and the appearance of the leftist movement in the south of Oman, and also the appearance of the Imama religious movements, which had always appeared during the history or Islamic history in Oman. All these factors have pushed the new political regime in Oman to adopt the most important most important diplomatic principles, that is the principle of neutralism and non-intervention in the affairs of other people, countries. Oman has respected these two principles, even in the very critical times that the Arab world went through during the boycott of Arab boycott to Egypt, during the Iraqi-Iran war, the first and second Gulf Wars. But the principle of neutrality and non-intervention was not, in essence, a diplomatic principle as such only. No. In my opinion, I think they were a strategic, important, self-imposed choice for Oman. Because at that time, Oman didn't have any other strategic choice or option but that one. Why did Oman adopt this strategic option, which is non-intervention in the affairs of others, and the principle of neutrality? First of all, Oman is a country where there are ethnic diversity and religious and social diversity for more than 6 or 7 centuries. And the political regime is very much aware that getting into any regional conflict in which religion is an important factor, this will be directly reflected on the political components and social and religious components of society, and would lead to sectarianism in the state of Oman, and something that we do not want. Oman was also aware that it is no longer that strong state as it was in the past. In the 17th century, and before that 16th century, when it kicked out the Portuguese from East Africa. It has become very much weaker politically, economically, militarily, so it did not want to go into any struggles or regional conflicts that are stronger than it, and has redrawn the political identity to focus only on internal affairs. There's also another factor or reason, which is what I always call is the dropping the projecting the historical Omani character on the conjecture, on the political situation at the moment. Oman, by its structure, historical structure, has not taken part in issues that are of deep importance for the Arabs. It was part, it is a state that got away from the Umayyad and the Abbasid states and focused on East Africa and the Indian Ocean. This historical background was the main reason in Oman's adopting this principle of neutrality and non-intervention, and in a way that Oman can always move this card in his hands and make use of it whenever it wishes to do so. I will pass over this historical aspect. The visit made by Sultan Qaboos in 2009 was the second visit of the Sultan, or the first the era of the Republic of Iran. The first visit before that was at the time of the Shah. It was an empire. And then he also visited Iran in 2013. Between these two visits, or these 5 past years, there has been an Iranian-Omani rapprochement that is significant, but only on 2 issues, which are the issue of the hostages and that of the nuclear negotiations between Iran and 5+1. Oman played as a role of mediator in these 2 issues. In the first issue, Oman succeeded to a large extent in the issue of hostages. That's between 2009 and 2013. And the second issue is still about to succeed, about to be finished. Why has Oman gone closer to Iran in the past 5 years, and why has played an important role in about these issues that are related to the relations between Iran and the West? Oman, of course, Oman had focused its diplomacy, basing its movements on some constants of historical constants and coexistence that must prevail in the GCC countries, not only between the Gulf countries only, but all the countries in that region. This moral thesis or basis are correct, and the political thinking in Oman speaks about this since 1973, and it's not something new.
We believe that these reasons are not substantial in the rapprochement between Oman and Iran. There are more substantial factors compared to this. First, we all agree with Dr. Khalid that the balance of power between the GCC and Iran had a big role in the rapprochement between Oman and Iran. There is a shift in balance, military, economical, and financial, even political. There is another factor, which is the imbalance of power within the GCC members. There is a dominion between that varies, and the harmony is absent among the GCC members. Another or a third factor is self-protection. Oman wished to maintain its own economic protection from any provocations or incitement that might take place in future, especially that everyone is aware that the GCC member countries over the past few years have been through many media provocative campaigns. It wished to open an economic chapter on Al Arab Sea through the negotiations with Iran. It also wished to prevent itself from the repercussions of collapse of the domestic fabric. Oman is the only country in the Arab world that is embracing three major sects: Shia, Sunni, and any conflict where religion is a key factor will tear apart the fabric of the society, especially that the Sunni or Shia sects will respond and interact to these conflicts. As we are running out of time, is about what is the impact of the Iranian-Omani rapprochement on the GCC integration. Due to differences of the political mindset of the member states of the GCC in the first place, Saudi Arabia for being the largest, and especially that it is not acting out of its own, yet due to its historical background and heavy weight, they are thinking differently, largely from Oman, who are mainly concerned with the domestic fabric. Three factors. Sultanate of Oman, I personally believe over the past 5 years, Oman cannot accept to engage any confederal union. It wishes to see the GCC in place to develop the council and institutionally and economically, yet it cannot accept that this would lead or result in the formation of a union for three key reasons. First, the political mindset in Oman still respects the historical character of Oman, being not totally melting with the Arab order, even in the League of Arab States as an entity. Second is the GCC, or the Gulf Cooperation Council, is usually built on trust and confidence, and this cannot be in harmony with the political reality. Third, and to me this is the key difference between Oman and Saudi Arabia, is the formation of a confederal union among the council members will cause Oman to abandon neutrality or cause Saudi Arabia to abandon the Arab world, and this is really very difficult. To respect my timing, thank you very much. It is really an exciting paper, outstanding one. We wish to hear you more when we open the floor for questions, and I believe you will raise controversy. From Iran to Turkey. Exporting crisis to conflicts, Kurds, Greece, Bulgaria, Syria, Iraq, Egypt, Israel, Europe, Russia, United States, and key GCC key players. What is the nature of relations with Turkey? And a paper will be addressed by Dr. Paulette Aris, who is a global fellow of the International Institute, also senior researcher and coordinator of Conflict Resolution Council in Istanbul. He is also professor of literature and social arts in University of Turkey, served as head of research, obtained PhD from university in Turkey. We give him the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to start thanking to Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies to inviting me. I would like to apologize. I'll talk in English, and I hope English to Arabic translation is better, since I had very much difficulty to understand the translation otherwise. Okay, my speech will center around Turkey and Qatar, and I will place it to a geopolitical framework. So people like to tell what they know of, and I'll provide a framework of my academic background. So the Turkey and Qatar, two important actors. So as Mr. Chairman introduced, Turkey is towards the little bit European side of West Asia. Qatar is at the heart of Gulf. So how come these two countries emerged as the allies, and even we can talk about, you know, long-term partnership, strategic alliances. If you look at the definitions of the relation between these two countries, we have discussed too much on the basic, what is going on, how the relations occur, which leader is visiting which country, the general attitudes. So I thought my contribution would be rather to help to conceptualize the relations and provide a geopolitical framework which can also be used to understand the other cases, the relation between other actors in the geography. I borrow the terminology of critical geopolitics, and critical geopolitics presents three different types of geopolitics. One is the formal geopolitics. This is the, more or less traditional geopolitical understanding of the states. One of the speakers in earlier panels were talking about, American realist style of geopolitics. This is an example. It relies on historical experiences of the states that they appropriate, a mode of approach, geopolitical approach to the neighboring and even faraway territories. The other approach is called the practical geopolitics. So states have these, traditions of geopolitics, but what's going to happen if an immediate situation emerges? And then they have to take practical action to deal with the situation. This is how policymakers connect their geopolitical understanding to the emergent situation on the ground. So the third is the popular geopolitics. That is the reflection of this geopolitical understanding at the grassroots level. At the end of the day, all politics is local. You have to persuade your grassroots, your constituency, if you pay attention to legitimacy at that level. So here in, the catchword here in this conference is Arab Spring, and Arab Spring changed the regional geopolitics. I will not go into details, but the whole regional system has collapsed. And here we are talking about, to reference to some understanding 30 years war or the struggle for a new Middle East concert. So that means there is no regional organization, operational regional organization. The nation-state system is in jeopardy. There is erosion of their legitimacy, and even borders are gaining, borders are losing its meaning. In addition, there are new non-state actors challenging the regional system and the nation-states as well. Well, Professor Mahmoud, I believe, next to me, he mentioned about this emergence developments and the consolidation of the notion of Arabia. But we are here at a point that there is an exclusive Arabness in this political geography. So there are references that Turkey, Iran, Israel are, gaining prominent role, but I will argue the reverse. Here, Iran, Turkey, Israel, they are losing ground. So if you look at the new trends, the changing borders, emergence of non-state actors here, Turkey, Iran, Israel, they have nothing to do with them. So their role is limited. There is this Arab exclusivity. In geopolitics, we call this, interdependent regional contagion. So here, there is an emergent Arabness which poses challenge to regional actors like Turkey. Here, they are under influence of what is going on in this Arab interdependent contagion, but they lost their room to maneuver within this Arab interdependent contagion. So here, Turkey and Qatar, vis-a-vis Arab Spring, developed their own geopolitical reasoning. This is what I call the practical geopolitics, to deal with the situation. Before Arab Spring, Turkey's relations with Qatar, it was emergent within the Arab regional system, since there were, more or less a functional Arab League and the GCC over there. GCC is regaining its role, I believe, having this summit in these days. But still, at that time, Turkey was, an observer to Arab League. It was developing, a kind of strategic alliance with the GCC, and then Qatar was a prominent actor within this framework that Turkey was approaching, and the relations were occurring. But after the Arab Spring, there is no more a possibility for such a framework. So here, Turkey developed, a geopolitical reasoning towards the Arab Spring, which was very much, welcoming the developments occurring on the side of popular masses. So it has been defined in Turkey that there is this emergence of a new collective consciousness in a number of Arab states, which is going to, end up in the whole Arab geography. At the end, it's going to transform the region in a way that, there will occur new governments, new administrations, which will be more friendly to Turkey, since the new rulers will be, backed by the popular masses. So if you look at the societal demands, that very much, converges with what Turkey is trying to do at home and in the neighborhood and outside the geography. So Arab Spring, the uprisings, has been a welcome development in Turkey. So the Turkish policymakers developed a geopolitical reasoning that they should side with the opposition, and they should ally with the newly emerging governments in this geography. So here, the Turkey is a medium-sized regional power with global or international aspirations. So on the other hand, Qatar is a part of this newly emerging regional interdependent contagion. But Qatar's position differed from some other actors, even in the GCC. So Qatar was like Turkey. Qatar did not see an immediate threat to its domestic political landscape. So Qatar has seen no possibility of Arab Spring within Qatar. So here, there is this Qatari, I define Qatar as small state with regional aspirations. So here, it was very much beneficial Qatar to put the instruments, policy instruments, into action that will elevate Qatar from that small state position to a regional one. Here, the geopolitical reasoning, both in Qatar and Turkey, converged at some point. So here the question, why Turkey and Saudi Arabia are diverting the roads and having tension, since the Saudi geopolitical reasoning and the Turkish geopolitical reasoning is not convergent as much as Turkey and the Qatari converge. Here, there has been some test cases to consolidate Turkey-Qatar relations. So one was Gaza. When there was, to 2012 and then 2013, the Israeli attacks, Turkey and Qatar played, some important roles to bridge the gap between the Palestinians and also in terms of providing a ceasefire. And then the other one was Syria. If you look at the Turkish and the Qatari position in Syria, it is to support opposition and provide the transformation. And the third case is the Egypt. You see again, a convergence of Turkish and Qatari position, which very much, wants the societal masses, the Tahrir spirit, to take over the rule in Egypt and have, a popularly elected government. Here, the convergence is more or less about the security of transformation in this Arab Spring. So here in the Egypt, the Saudi position is to rely on military to provide security of transformation. But Turkish-Qatari position converts more or less, relying on Egyptian people, having elections free and fair. So if Morsi succeeds, they are going to vote for him. But if he does not, provide some good performance, people are going to replace with another one. So here, there is this visible convergence, emergence of a partnership, which may even go to a strategic alliance level. But the problems are not also not free from some potential problems. So here, what converges Turkey and Qatar is Turkey's, search for elevating itself from a regional power to an international one, and the Qatar from a small one to a regional, player. So there is no challenge to Qatar in terms of, having an Arab Spring within Qatar, but regional actors put pressure on Qatar, which is, as much as a challenge like having such a, turmoil at home. If the regional pressure on Qatar increases to the level that Qatar feels, it's going to give up this regional aspiration and will go back to this, basic instinct of survival, and then this relations is not, going to continue. So the other is, there is U.S. withdrawal from this geography, and there is real good room to maneuver. Indeed, it's a great chance for the regional actors to build alternatives to, to have United States on board in terms of, achieving some, fulfilling something in here in this geography. Okay, so here, Turkey and Qatar needs to deliver something. So it happened in Gaza. Since we know the Secretary of State Kerry, he said, I very much value Turkish and Qatari role. But here, in the following course, Turkey and Qatar needs to deliver something, needs to build, alternatives, the policies, the approaches. Here, Iran is doing pretty well. On the ISIS, they are, offering something. On some other issues, they are offering something, and that's why Iran in these days have United States more on board than another country, even though it's going behind the scenes. We'll see probably in future. The final word is Turkey's and the Qatari geopolitical reasoning is very much based on, both, leadership. They put forward that they have ethical positions toward the Arab Spring. But here there is a gap between always ethical position and the political positions towards the issues. For example, what to do with ISIL, so what to do with the Egyptian government. So there is a trust that, there may be change, but it is still over there. So there is this tension between the political necessity and ethical position. Here, the both states needs to bridge this gap to make this alliance sustainable. So here, the final word, there is this, emergence of Turkish-Qatari partnership, but there are still problems to make this a strategic alliance since it is operating in a real unstable and unpredictable geography. Thank you very much.
شكرا دكتور بولند. يبدو أننا اختدمنا بداعش. ظهر داعش تجمعنا
It seems that ISL brings us together. We have very little time. We want to make best use by your questions, but please, you must be short. You cannot have more than 2 minutes. I give the floor to Mr. Dr. Dhafar Al-Ajmi. I have received Dr. Mariam, thank you very much. I hope that won't give you more than time, and I would have liked to have more talk about Qatar, where we had a lot of use of Twitter. Dr. Musfer, as usual, Ahwaz was there, but not the Ahwazis themselves. Don't you think that it's time to see some people from Ahwaz to come in the GCC country meetings as observers at least? Dr. Ahmed Ismail, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ali bin Abdullah, said that the unity between the GCC countries is the imagination of people, and we have withdrawn from such meetings. Now you're speaking about integration inside the Arab atmosphere, as you saw it historically speaking. There's also the issue of the rapprochement between Iran and USA, which and Oman had played a role in this. The other thing is, thank God, I did not attend any Gulf meeting unless with Omani presence. So what is it? Are you calling for the isolation of Oman from its Gulf environment? Mr. Muhammad, Dr. Muhammad Saad. Thank you, Dr. Khalid. We go back to Dr. Muhammad Musfer again, who you know, Iran is made of Arabs, Kurds, Baluch, Persians. So the issue of the Front of Liberation of Ahwaz, from practical point of view, do you think it's practical to speak of that now, that you call for liberation front? Because they are part of the components of the Iranian people, and the Arabic language by constitution is taught since the primary school. So how realistic is your call now for this? Dr. Ahmed Ismaili, you focus on the issues between Oman and Iran, especially since 2009, and spoke of the eclectic relationship and the nature of the religious conflict. The relations to Iran and Oman, there was no religious aspect in it. And if you notice that since the end of the 18th century, Oman had rented Bandar Abbas, and there were cooperation and coordination regarding Bahrain, and that Sayyid Sultan had married two princesses. And there were special relationships between Oman and Iran by the nature of their geographic situation. As for the principle of neutrality, and when you speak about Oman is not being integrated in the Arab environment. In 1977, when somebody invaded Basra, your sultan sent a fleet to help the people of Sudan, and there was also cooperation between the different sultans and the Omani. Saeed bin Taimur himself visited King Farouk, and when two schools were inaugurated, Saeed bin Taimur brought teachers from Palestine. So speaking, as Oman is part of the Arab nation and the GCC network, and it's not isolated. Abdul Nabi, be brief, please. We cannot hear him. Dr. Muhammad Misfer, you are my friend, but I differ with you. On the maps that you and the history spoke of. Nevertheless, if your history you talk about just like with the history of Palestine, but if it is a call for a Gulf Arab war against Iran, this is a chauvinist appeal, dangerous one, and will go back to what Saddam did, and you know what the result of that. As for Maryam, the Gulf regimes are the enemies of Twitter. That's why they have now they imposed 5 years imprisonment on those who use Twitter against them. And what about the relationships between the nation, the peoples, relations that link Oman to Iran? And these conflicts, in fact, will be only temporary. Dr. Sarhan Atibi. We thank all the speakers, the panelists for their very good presentations that were very useful. First question to Maryam. She spoke about the role of Twitter, international relations, and relations between peoples. The question is there, have you made a sort of comparison between those who have used their real names or false names, and how much they are committed to morals and good conduct and political discussions? The other question to Mr. Dr. Ahmed Ismaili. Dr. Ismaili has spoken about the history, about the Umayyads, the Abbasis, and said that Oman during these periods was away and from this, and then said that Oman does not want to integrate it in the Arabic order on the GCC. So do you have a political philosophy behind this, not to be integrated, since you have a history of non-integration, and they think that even now in the modern time you should not be integrated with the Arab regimes? Dr. Mahmoud Murad. After July War 2006 launched by Israel on Iran, on Lebanon, Qatar helped along with the other GCC countries, Saudi Arabia and Emirates, to compensate. Today I heard a very good opinion by Mr. Mohammed Misr when he knows that one should not speak about what's happening. Who is the great Satan in Ahwaz issue? And the second question to Ahmed Ismail, you call for the neutrality of Oman and you want all the GCC countries to do so. But suppose that somebody comes into the room now and said to us that you must give us a specific name. Everything has a name, the Arab Gulf has a name, and came someone and said to us, I will not come into your room unless you change the word Arab by Persian in the Gulf Persian. So would you accept that? Dr. Muhammad, I thank everybody. I have two remarks. First of all, the map. The geographic space on the map does not present the real borders of Al-Muhammar or Ahwaz. Yes, there are Arab presence for a long distance. There are so many tribes, especially the whole tribe, that have ruled this region. And I had spoken one of the members of the Front of Liberation Ahwaz, and he told me that this is an exaggerated map. Even they admit that. Second, as Mr. Ahmed Ismaili, Oman, as to say by the other gentleman, during its history, have played a good role in the Umayyad Abbasi eras. And Oman has always played a role in the Arab issues. One of the important components of religion of Oman that has its effect in Libya and Algeria. Zaid al-Dhaili. Thank you.
We thank all the speakers. Dr. Mariam, you addressed a very important issue, and I was honored to preside the cultural program on the Book Fair 2014, and we organized a seminar on this issue. Rumehi said if had Hosni Mubarak read this book, he would not have been toppled. I would say, had the rulers of the Gulf been reading what's been written in books and on Twitter, they would have benefited a lot. The issue of Ahwaz is, from the political point of view, I agree with Dr. Muqaddam, especially we speak about multiple ethnicities within Iran. Will this apply later in Iraq with respect to the Kurds? Second, to what degree the sectarian dimension have an impact in the Ahwaz or the Arabistan, as Turkey and Qatar, the rapprochement between Qatar, with all respect, it is a GCC member, and Turkey under Erdogan with the new mindset of the Ottomans, the only common ground with them is the strategic alliance with the Muslim Brotherhood. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I thanked Turkey on the liberal or civilian and also for the new Ottoman ideology that's being marketed and promoted and advocated by Erdogan.
I have a question to our Turkish friend here. I see three dimensions playing in every relationship or position, locally or regionally. We have the ideology, which goes from individual loan, as we see in Oman, an Arab ideology, as we see in those who talk about pan-Arab, and the Islamist, which goes further into the Islamic world. That's one dimension. The other dimension is conservative versus liberal, which is an attitude dimension, whether you are talking about the people or the government. And the third dimension is the type of ruling system. Is it centralized or is it democratic?
Thank you.
Now, when we go to Turkey, and I'm a frequent visitor of Istanbul, I like it very much.
I like it too.
I cannot really put my finger on how it is going, following what Erdogan, says today or tomorrow or yesterday. I would like to know whether, by focusing on reading the history and our relationships, rather than focusing on the fluidity, the change that happens and affects the attitudes of decisions taken.
شكرا دكتورة، وصلت الثلاث.
How is the Turkish?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to comment on all the exciting papers. However, I will direct that question to Mr. Aras. It is reported, widely reported in the Arab world, comments say that Turkey are refraining from playing a rationalizing role in Egypt following the revolution and supporting Morsi regime have exacerbated the situation and caused more deterioration, causing divorce between the political Islamist tide and the liberals in general, which we can name as a counter-revolution. Also, the Turkish Saudi rapprochement on Syria was a disaster and catastrophic on the Syrian revolution. How do you comment on this? We'll start by Miriam commenting on Twitter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With Twitter and the paper, I was very systematic and had an approach for all the tweets on the withdrawal of ambassadors, even some comments which are very obscene, were reflecting the inferiority of the discourse that has been abbreviated by F word in English, which is an obscene taboo, and the Arab Likud. As Dr. Dafer mentioned, the Qatari tweets are present, analyzing, and they are present in the paper as the paper approached all the tweets and none was excluded simply for the statistic and breakdown of the information in all the scientific approach used in analysis. The Gulf rulers are enemies to Twitter. As a matter of fact, if we apply what is being said on the freedom of speech, we find that rulers are enemies to any attack or criticism. However, if the tweets are turns into a platform for defamation, libel, and slander, then the government have a right to exercise to protect themselves from the legal perspective, and the as applicable not only in the Gulf countries but in the world countries. Analyzing the tweets and anonymous, we found that some of them were advertised under taswiq or marketing, and the tweet is a prayer. He is promoting one idea, one video, or other tweets. This explains that the anonymous names were also included in the paper. Well, the future will witness more approach more towards Iran. We thank all those who commented or raised questions. The integration between Oman and the Arab world from the political indications, not the social. Even from the historical perspective, integration between Oman and the Arab world, not only the GCC, Oman throughout history, since the second Hijri century, has been independent from the Central Islamic State. Now, Oman is not willing to promote its history. Oman has never been concerned, historically speaking, with the in-depth Arab causes. It went far east of Africa, overseas, Balochistan, Bandar Abbas. The political indications to the principle of integrity is clear through the diplomatic principles in Oman. The principle of neutrality and non-intervention in other affairs is reinforcing the same independence of the Omani character. With respect to the Dr. Muhammad, I did not claim that the religion was a key factor in Oman. Oman cannot manipulate religion as a key player. It will have certain implications on the fabric. It will dismember, disconnect, and divide the fabric, which is made up of multiple ethnicities and sects. Well, Qatar, is there a convention in Turkey?
Well, there are a couple of questions, but the conversion point, I guess, one is Turkey's role in Egypt. Well, Turkey's stance has been read outside as the pro-Mursi kind of understanding prevails, but the Turkey's position is more pro-Tahrir, more pro-revolution in Egypt. So here, whoever they choose, Turkey is gonna support. But they need to choose. They need to give them a chance to choose their leaders. So here, Turkey is, the Turkish transformation is an interesting transformation, but Turkey is more democratic, more, focusing or keeping that cultural background. So here, what Turkey tries to do to develop a moderate, Muslim democratic state which is in peace with its own society, but it doing it, in a very problematic geography. Also here in Turkey. Turkey is not a perfect democracy, but it is more democratic in comparison to 10 years earlier, previously decade. So the Turkey is facing problems at home in terms of democratization, societal peace, etc. But Turkey reflects in its foreign policy. So Turkey likes to see in Syria what he tries to do at home. This is the major difference, with the Saudi position and the Iranian position towards those countries. It's very much like Iran likes to see in Syria what they have in Iran. So this is not the Turkish position. There is this divergence. So Qatar is a GCC member. We acknowledge it. We like GCC to be very operational, powerful organization. We need a system. We need a concert here. And it is better to do Arab League and the GCC. But here we don't see it. Up to 1 month ago, there were no GCC ambassadors here. So you are going to have a summit, but no ambassadors. And thanks God, there are ambassadors. Here, the Turkish-Saudi relations, the Turkish perception is that, Saudi is going alone. And here, there is no chance of, rapprochement between Turkey and the Saudi if Saudi policy continues as it is. So Turkey has its own political agency, and then that, based on political agency, Turkey follow its policy towards Arab countries as well as towards Iran. But if there emerges chance of cooperation based on rational calculations, then it will happen.
دكتور محمد المسبر قضايانا مع الأهواز وقضايا الأهواز معنا بالعالم العربي.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. President. I regret to say, throughout the conference days, I believe that many of the speakers, as if they are echoing the voice of rulers beyond the walls of this chamber. Second, I had hoped that all the questions raised, I had hoped or had expected from the representative of the Iranian ambassadors. Regretfully and unfortunately, the questions were raised by Arab who have a stature in the GCC countries. However, Mr. Akre, you misunderstood. I did not call, please allow me to speak. I did not call for a war against Iran, and I'm not in a position to call for a war against any country, neighboring country. I'm against wars. All the accusations in the GCC, without exceptions, they have been accusing Iran that it is intervening in their domestic affairs. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Yemen, Somalia, Djibouti, even in the Comoros, and no one is speaking of them. Is it out of courtesy towards Iran or to placate Iran? Your rulers are saying, your governments are saying that Iran is intervening. With respect to the Arab Star, the map I projected here is not made at home. It is available in the Atlas books. It is available on all the geographical sites. It is not the work of my hand. Why do you object? However, we lack all the Arab maps where Septa Malila and all the other occupied or areas, as if the causes of these countries is time-barred. It is very significant. The sectarian dimension, it is present in Arabistan. All the Sunni, like in Tehran, do not have one single mosque. However, they are objecting for the absence of the Husseini in the Arab countries. With respect to the silent devils, there are many, chief among them the Arab educated top thinkers and elite, namely in the Gulf countries. With respect to the last question, the GCC, if they believe that Iran is intervening their domestic affairs. They have the mechanisms and instruments to shake Iran from within, as if exactly as Iran is occupying the Emirati islands and intervening with the Bahraini and Saudi affairs. The last, to conclude, it is important out of patriotic national Arabism to maintain and to preserve our entity, to have Arabistan as an observer member of the GCC, like some of the countries. Ahmadinejad himself was invited to the Gulf Council meetings. Those members are required to call a representative of the Arabistan to be an observant member. We thank our speakers, Mariam Al-Khatab, Mohammed Al-Misfar, Ahmed Ismaili, and Poland Chorus. Thank you for attending this session, and we invite you to join us after the recess.